This is not financial advice, it's just the wine talking.
Welcome back to It's Just a Wine. I'm Matilda. Joining me today is Melissa and my very good friend Tania Mazza.
Welcome.
How was it? 26 years old, owning your condo in Griffintown. At the time, it was up and coming. It was the thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, sometimes I try to look back because I feel like now I would be more scared to do something like that looking back. I can only describe it as an outer body experience, to be honest with you. So I've been single for a while, then in relationships, and I'm sitting on this money, and in my head, I already feel late. Because my goal from when I was 20 years old was that at 25 I'd be married and have a house. So to me, I was already like, bye. These were the goals back then. 25 and married with a house, okay? Those are the goals in their little time capsule at school. But I took them seriously. So I was frustrated. I was already behind. So I said, you know what? Let me go to my little lady at TD Bank and ask her what I could be pre-approved for. It was a whopping $250,000. I thought it was so much. Back then it was. Yeah, you had some wiggle room with that, honestly. So I knew my amount, and I knew I worked downtown. I'd always worked downtown. I started off of Mansfield and St. Catherine. I changed jobs 3 times, and it was all within that radius.
Yeah.
So I said, wow, I've been commuting since I'm 16 all the way downtown. That's where my college was, 3 hours a day. I want to be able to walk to work. So it's not like I was a genius buying in Griffintown. I was trying to solve a problem.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, researching and this and that. And I saw some things online about development projects. So one day after work, instead of getting on the train to go home, I walked 15 minutes south, and there was a real estate development office. And I sat down with them. I told them what my pre-approval amount was, and off plans, because I don't know if it's still like this nowadays, but back then, if you bought a place before it was built, it was significantly cheaper because you're buying off plans and you had to wait a year for it to be built. Also, when you're buying a property that is not yet built, I don't know if it's still like this, but you get to give your down payment in 3 installments, depending on the phase of the project. Right? Why would you give your money right away? What if it doesn't end up getting built or something happens, right? So I sat down with the lady. I was straight up with her. This is what I have. This is all I can do. This is how much I have. Make it work so that this amount that I have is a 20% down payment because I want my things to be manageable. And what unit makes the most sense? I just want to get in. I got the first floor, no parking, barely a balcony, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. But I wanted a nice kitchen with a good bar. I wonder why. And so back then, I used to walk around with a checkbook in my wallet. So, and I still have the picture because the lady took the picture for me because she was freaking out for me. And I feel like I was having an outer body experience. I signed the deed or whatever the development plans were, and I cut 1/3 of the down payment check and the other ones with void dates. And I gave it to her and I took a picture with it, and then I walked to the to the train station and took the bus back home. And I went home, I sat at the kitchen table, I texted you.
Yeah.
And then I told my mom, Mommy, I just bought a condo.
Oh my God.
So it's kind of, I'm going to pause because you're saying all of this, and I'm thinking to myself when I was 26, and you know, even to you, you're much more financially responsible than I am. But you wouldn't just go do this on your own.
I wouldn't buy a property.
No, that's not what I mean. You wouldn't make such a big decision
Without consulting people. I realized,
without consulting mom and dad, without consulting me. Like, it would be like such a big
it
conversation.
would be a forum, like everybody
in our
would-
family with
Yeah.
everyone's either
Giving their
positive or
opinions.
negative opinions.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't just like after work go and buy a condo.
Yeah.
Or go and buy something worth $250,000. You know?
But like that actually brings me,
It's impressive.
to think
It's a
back.
lonely game.
Were you saving to buy a property? Was
Yeah.
that the goal for...
Yeah. It had always been the goal.
Okay.
It had always been the goal for my little time capsule thingy. That was the ultimate goal.
Okay.
I've always been obsessed with property. I've always, my entire childhood after my parents got divorced, we were always renters, and I hated that. It was like an obsession, you know, having a scumlord landlord and things like that. I grew up with a lot of angst around that. And my parents had a hard time buying their first property. We got our first house when I was 18. So it was an obsession. It's an obsession that started very, very young, that I had to put that $1,000 a month aside, and that was going to get me to the ultimate goal, which was getting in the real estate game, whether I had to do it alone or not.
Which year did you buy?
I bought in 2006. No, 2016. Sorry.
Okay.
2016.
And what, I know you don't live there anymore. So what has been...
Did you sell it or
Yeah.
did you rent it?
No, I lived in it.
No, when she said you don't live there anymore, did you sell it or
Oh,
rent
I
it?
sold it. Yeah,
Okay.
I sold it. I sold it at 4.5 years in, so I actually had to break my mortgage a little bit, but it wasn't barely made it.
So how did that go financially?
So I was ready to buy a home. I had a partner now. We wanted to have a house. We wanted the space. We wanted to start the next phase of our lives. And so I'd really been benefiting from COVID because I've always believed in being variable. So when the rates dropped in COVID, my mortgage, the measly little balance there was on it, was going down like crazy. Also, to my advantage was it was a bidding war frenzy. Also, when I moved into my neighborhood, going back to everybody's reactions of when I first bought, they were appalled. You're going to live near hobos. That's a horrible neighborhood. Gangs, this and that. It's a dangerous neighborhood. You just bought a dump, this and that. Fast track 4 years later, it's one of the trendiest neighborhoods to
Yeah.
live in.
Till today,
Yeah.
actually.
And I got a lot of backlash about doing it on my own. Coming from traditional background, you're supposed to do this with a partner. You can't move out on your own. I got a lot of backlash, and maybe there was even things people didn't say to my face. I can only imagine. And that's why I did it alone.
Yeah.
Because when I rarely ask people for advice, I tell people about it after, because the noise gets in the way of my gut, and my gut has never steered me wrong. So
But
when
let
it
the
comes to
noise,
this kind of,
let the noise.
I don't want it. It's gonna cloud my focus. So that's why I do things and tell people about it.
But also, why do you like variable rates?
Back then, I liked variable rate because the way it used to be back then is that even if the amount went up, it was only going to affect you at the end of your 25-year or 30-year term. And in my mind, well, I'm not going to be here for 30 years, so I don't care.
Right.
I'm going to sell this for a profit, so who cares? I want to pay the lowest amount as possible and play the game. Take
you
a little
have-
bit of a risk in my safe investment.
Yeah.
Do you
in
have
a
the
way.
same mindset today?
We'll get there. We'll get there. It depends. I think, honestly, you change. Your opinions on things kind of change.
And the market also changes.
And the market
But
changes. You have to make the best decision with what you're given. I mean, when I did buy my home, I did go variable again because I was still very a variable. girl.
I'm a fixed rate girl because I like to predict my future. So that's very predictable.
Yeah, there's a safety in that.
Yeah.
There's a safety in that.
And to be honest, when we first bought our condo, they asked fixed or variable, and they said we chose
remember.
fixed.
Oh, okay. I don't remember. I
And
know
thank
nothing
God-
about you manage that property. I know nothing
Thank
about
God
it.
we chose fixed because the rates rose.
At that time,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
At
yeah.
that time,
It
incredible
went
decision.
up to like
Yeah.
7.
Yeah, and I'll get into that. But yeah, it was, back then it was a great decision because it was all going on capital. It was going down, down, down. It was incredible.
So you were making...
So when I first bought my property, I just to put it out there to give people some like hope, I was only making $50,000 and I got pre-approved for a $250,000 mortgage
Yeah, but
because I
this
had
was
so much savings. Yeah,
2016,
back
and
then.
there-
Yeah, now you can't. Now you can't.
Now you can't.
No, now you can't. But in retrospect, the salaries maybe are better now. I don't know.
But I wanna say something about the variable and how you said your capital was growing because
Going down, I don't know.
No, his.
I was paying less into interest, and I was actually seeing my
her
bottom line
payments
go
were
down.
going down.
so
No, they were the same.
That's the key.
The payment's the same.
This is what I wanted
So
to
there's
talk
your
about.
predictability. The payment's
Oh, but
the
the
same.
amount that's going to principal is more.
Exactly.
So,
Which is why when you sell,
I don't think everybody does that. I think, and I don't know if that's how you have to do it with variable,
it's recently changed. I'll get into that.
but because if your rate goes down and your mortgage goes down, and if you only make the amount of the new interest rate, then the capital doesn't grow as quickly.
No. So my payments.
But she was
stayed
making the
fixed.
same amount of payments
predictability
with
was
a
the
lower
same
rate.
amount.
So her
that
capital
additional was helping her
Was actually
grow
paying
so
off
Yeah.
the house more.
that's actually smart.
right.
But in today's market,
But I'll explain when I got my house how the variable rate rules, unprecedented rules changed. But so going back to that time, it was a perfect time to sell a 1-bedroom, 1-bath condo because I feel like on the first floor, no real view, no parking downtown. But I didn't get a parking because it was $50,000 more, and I was only approved for $250,000. I ended up buying my condo for $225,000. That was the unit that worked out because after higher you go, the more expensive it was and all that. So I didn't have enough for a parking spot, and so when it was time to sell, it was the best case scenario. It was better than what I had predicted 4 years ago. I can't pretend I was that smart to foresee that. I was maybe hoping to make 40,000. You know, that's what I thought. But thanks to COVID, I remember
Thanks to COVID.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, silver lining in anything.
COVID changed the entire market.
Changed the game. I remember we listed our house. We listed the condo, and within 5 days we had 19 offers on a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, and we made $200,000. Well, I made $200,000.
Own it, girl.
Yeah.
I made $200,000, and I can tell you that my initial down payment was $25,000.
Wow.
So basically, and at close to 200,000 was what I walked away with after, because I kind of broke my mortgage term by 6 months. So I had
And
to
you didn't pay any capital gains.
No,
Because it
because
was
I
your
lived
first
in it.
home.
No, but I also lived in it for 4 years.
Exactly.
Right? I lived in it for 4 years. This paid the notary fees, commission, taxes, whatever. After all of that, I walked away.
That's great.
Yeah. So I flipped $25,000 into $200,000 in under 5 years.
See, like
even
if
after
you,
paying a penalty.
If you're telling me this, and I'm going crazy in my mind because I lost that opportunity. I'm in a different generation.
It's a different market.
Yeah, different
different
market
world.
that I can't flip 25K like that.
No, but and even in
Because-
retrospect, like I was saying, I wasn't that smart. I did not have that foresight. I thought maybe if I really got lucky, if the neighborhood would pick up, that I would make 50,000. I mean, back in the days that I grew up in, you were lucky to get asking.
Yeah.
You weren't getting 19 offers. You
the
were having
bidding-
somebody come
the
once a
bidding
month to
wars
look at
were
your
Yeah,
house.
crazy.
exactly.
This was a whole other level. So thanks to that, we were able to buy a home. Now being in the market, in this new crazy market, and being on the buyer end,
A super different experience.
super different
in both
experience. And I mean, I actually had to sell my condo and move in with my parents, with my partner, before even finding another property, because we were on the other receiving end of bidding wars and
Right.
we weren't winning. And that's because we had cash, right? We had a cash offer. We didn't have a contingency offer where, subject to the contingency of me selling my other property, I sold it. So there was no
that's
contingency.
interesting.
It put me at the top of the pile, and I was overbidding by $100,000, and I still wasn't winning. It took 3 months. I lived with my parents for 3 months, sitting on that 200,000. I couldn't do much with it because I needed it at any moment's
Yeah.
notice.
Right.
So I couldn't do what some other people have done when they sell a big
Especially
property.
3 months, it would have been.
I would have wanted
been
it.
worth it.
I mean, in a perfect world, I would have wanted it the next week. So I needed to have that money on hand
Liquid,
to be
yeah.
to be able to make those kinds of offers and to be more favorable, to put me at the top of the list, because I was competing with investors, people that were just buying property
Yeah,
back
at
then.
that point.
It was really hard.
Even like people that were
That
buying
didn't
that
even
didn't live here.
Yeah,
That's
that
what
didn't.
I'm
Yeah.
sure.
The person that ended up buying my condo was an investor. He wasn't even buying it to live in it. So he
Yeah.
outbid 18 other people
That's crazy.
because he didn't
What a
care, whatever it
time.
took. Whatever.
But-
I remember the last two people. There was even a bit of a back and forth. Your real estate agent's not allowed to say the amount. They kind of and
Yeah.
he's just like, tell me what I need to do to get more, and we just
And they're gonna rent
they're
it
gonna
out.
do it. Yeah, because in that
Yeah.
neighborhood you can rent out
Yeah,
for a
of
pretty penny.
course. Of course.
But that's all good stuff, and I love the experience you went through because you went through so much with 25K.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
But after all that and all your investments, like, what does financial freedom mean to you? I feel like this is such an interesting
It's
question.
personal,
because
and I feel like it's different for everyone.
Yeah, 100%.
For me, financial freedom means living a peaceful life, meaning that I feel safe and at peace, and then I always have a home, because I never want to live in fear of not having my home. So knowing that my home is taken care of, I have a safe space to live, is really important to me. Knowing that all my contingencies are in place, so that if anything bad happens, the emergency funds and things are all set up and they're rolling on their own. So I'm okay if anything bad were to happen. But also it means being able to, I don't know, buy the food that I want to buy, being able to go out for a nice dinner, being able to celebrate wins whenever I want to, or celebrate for no reason.
Yeah.
That's financial freedom for me. Being able to travel, being able to buy things without always obsessing over the price tag. I want to be able to get to a point one day where I don't have to talk myself out of buying socks.
Yeah.
That I don't really need. I don't want to always have to justify deserving something. I want to just have worked so hard and now I deserve it all the time.
Yeah. And you do. But to be able to reach that kind of freedom, you have to, and you have to sacrifice a lot for a number of years to eventually get there. Yeah. Because if you don't do it now, you're going to sacrifice it later. So you got to pick. What do you want?
Like, I was thinking about it now. Like, I always look at the price, and not because I can't afford it. I could afford it, but is it really necessary? Like this, and you know, there's this thing called time value of money. It's so important to me because today's money is worth more than tomorrow's.
Yeah.
And I rather spend it on investments and other stuff, whether that's $10, $100, or $500. I rather put it aside because that will make me spend more and without looking at the price later on.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you got to pick, and I've kind of been on each end.
Let's pour some wine.
Yeah, I need some. I've kind of been on each end.
Yeah, you have.
So I have gone through times where I never looked at the price of something. And not because I had reached a certain level.
And I've envied you for that because I'm like, she's so free.
But it's not because I had reached a level of financial freedom.
You just didn't seem as worried.
I just didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't care. I wasn't thinking so long term. I was living in the moment. I was making good money and I was living in the moment. And it was fun. And it was.
I'm sure it
Yeah.
was.
And it's nice to say you had that fun time too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. But now I'm in a very different place. And because my relationship with money has changed, my perspective has changed. Now I'm thinking of the future. Now I have kids. So
Yeah.
like
You have to think about
so that's
it.
when everything changed for me when
Yeah.
when I had my son. And so now when I think back, I'm like, the shit I did, the shit I could have done today, the shit it could have been in another 20 years with all of that money that I blew.
Wouldn't it have been great if we had these kind of open
Conversation.
discussions back
It's
then?
so important.
Because we were attached at the hip, but we weren't really having
but we
these
weren't,
kind
and
of conversations.
we are best friends, but we
Living.
had completely different ideas of what to do with our money, and we lived together
Practically.
almost,
Yeah.
but we lived completely differently.
And we were always open about our salaries because we have same
Yeah.
job. We've always like benchmarked with each other. We've always been super open. But I think it's also I didn't talk about these things because I didn't know if you were interested, and now we've come to a different place in our relationship where we could talk about these things, and it's so important, especially women to women. Men talk about these things together, but I feel like this is new for women.
It's important because it could, like, for example, if I hadn't talked about this subject with my sister, maybe she would have thought differently.
Continued the way I was doing. It all kind of happened. You really got into finance, and I had kids around the same time, and you started talking to me about it because you had no one else to talk to. You needed to get it out. It's all she wants to talk about, so she needed to talk to someone about it. And it took me a while, but it did. Something clicked. But the point of this podcast completely is to have these conversations.
Yeah.
It's not about giving financial advice. It's not about telling anyone what to do. It's about having these conversations and how that conversation can,
Inspire.
Yeah, inspire somebody.
at the end of the day, it's on me.
Yeah.
I got to do the work.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what I didn't know.
Think,
I also
think back to
think-
me at 25 or 20 years old. I had no one. There was no resources, no one to talk
That
to.
was actually one
now
of my
there's podcasts
questions
like this.
to you. Like,
But before you get into that, I want to say that, like, for somebody that spends without looking at the price, I'm not talking about super wealthy people,
Yeah.
but people that want to make a name for themselves or build wealth for themselves. Eventually, it's going to catch up to them.
Yeah, it always is.
Whether it's at 25, 30, or 50, it's going to catch up to them.
100%.
Or at
And-
70 when you're
and
retired
then
and you
look
realize
back,
you're going to
and
live.
look back like, oh, shit, I should have done it differently.
I like resonate with that on like a deep level. Like for me, it's not too late.
No, it's never too late.
But if we had not had conversations, if we don't talk about money so freely, then it could have been too late.
But
Yeah.
and also one of the posts you made on our Instagram, it's really about the surroundings.
It's
Yeah.
so it
Like
has
for
such
example,
a big
me,
impact.
I went to school. I was surrounded by people who are in the same field as me, talking about finance, and
Yes,
a lot
yes.
of people who have drive. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was surrounded by that. Maybe I wasn't talking to my friends about it, but I was constantly surrounded by
Hearing.
people.
Those are the words
Exactly.
you're hearing.
Yeah.
Those are the concepts
I
you're hearing.
remember
I
back
didn't
when
exactly.
I was in college.
I had to block out the noise.
I remember back when I was in college, there was this guy that came up to me and said, I'm taking stock courses. I made 10 grand. And to me, I still
hit
remember,
you,
I
yeah.
was like, oh, I want to learn. I want to learn.
Yeah.
This guy is making 10 grand. He's in college.
Yeah.
So it's really about,
You were exposed to it.
yeah.
And it gave you the spark. You already had the drive. You just needed someone to ignite something.
Yeah.
I didn't have that
No.
until you. And so it was difficult for me to get there. I did get there. I've taken the steps. I've done the things. And we talk about this a lot now.
All the time. It's our favorite subject.
Yeah. I love talking about it.
But something needs to spark. And for you, from our conversations that we've had before and the conversation we're having today, for you, it was maybe the environment that you grew up in and
Doing the opposite.
this situation
Yeah.
that you were in and doing the opposite
Of what was
So
what
I
supposed
was
to be.
your reality at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So I actually was going to mention that, like, as a parent, you should ignite that to your kids.
Yeah.
So now you're a mom, and soon, God
Hopefully,
willing,
yes.
you will be one, and then God willing, me. We have that responsibility to
Yes.
do that for our kids,
Yes.
because you can't trust the outside world. You need
No.
to do the work so
Yeah.
that they can have a secure future.
You need to, just like we're having these conversations, you need to, obviously at a normal, at a respectable age, you need to have these open conversations with your children.
Yeah, 100%.
Open dialogue about what to do, how to go about it. And also, I really don't think handing things to people has ever gotten them anywhere.
Yeah.
You can help, you can guide, but I think in the formative years, they really, learning, sacrifice, and hard work is something that will carry you for the rest of your life. It is the two most important fundamental skill sets you can teach anyone.
Yeah.
To fend for themselves is extremely important. Could be there in the background, catch them when they fall, but you're handicapping them.
I
Yeah.
agree. So
Yeah.
let's say you build a trust fund for your kid. Instead of just handing it to them to blow it off, explain to them what this money could do
become.
for you. Yeah, exactly.
And set
So
those rules.
it's not just it's not just about giving
But
it
you're
to
talking
you.
about these things way before that trust fund kicks in.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're teaching the
100%.
value of a doll. You're teaching the discipline way before that. It comes way before
like
that.
my son is 4 years old, and obviously like there's an extent to how much he can understand about the finance world, but it is somewhat of a conversation to his level of understanding. She
Like
talks
I
to
do
him
ask
about
him
it.
questions.
I ask him about it. He understands the concept of money, and I mean, that's where it starts. If you know, money's a tool. If
It's
you,
a tool,
If
yeah.
you understand
And
that.
last time,
Objects
Dad,
don't just fall on your
because
lap.
he's hearing us like invest, he knows that word. He doesn't know what it
It's a
means, but he
household.
knows. So the other day, like it's just a little the little things. My dad gave him money and he put it in his piggy bank.
Yeah.
Like
Not take
it's
me to the grocery store to buy a candy.
exactly. So all this to say,
Surrounding.
and congratulations to your successful financial journey.
Thank you.
But all this to say, it's to enlighten people,
Yeah.
to take control.
Take
basically.
control. It's in your hands.
Yeah.
You just gotta have the drive. And you know what? And I'll learn from my own mistakes. If you don't understand, and yours.
Yeah.
You don't understand. I didn't understand what the fuck RRSP was.
Yeah. I think I just started. Honestly, I've just been signing those papers.
If you don't understand, ask someone.
Yeah.
Call,
Don't be shy. There's such a shyness around talking about money and asking people because you feel dumb for not knowing. So
No,
you're
I
scared
feel
to
like
ask.
people think that the reason why people don't talk about money is because the fear of missing out. I feel like
Fear of missing out on what?
meaning, oh, I suppose that you have more money, so I'm like, oh, I'm not
Oh,
there
like a
yet.
competitive thing?
Yeah,
Not to
I
talk
feel
about
like
it?
that's a lot.
I think if you, that just part of society.
Yeah,
but
100%.
I have also been working on changing my mentality over that. Like when I have conversations, obviously I'm not screaming around my salary to the world, but when I have conversations with my close friends or family, I talk about my salary and I talk about things I've done to get there and things I can do to get even more. What more can I do?
Because it inspires.
But because it inspires.
When you're talking to the right people, it'll
but
inspire.
it's also, if you remove that like heaviness or like that awkwardness, the taboo of talking about money, you just feel this like, now we can talk about it. Now let's fucking
you
go.
also, I agree to talk about it, but you also need to talk about it with somebody that understands.
Yes.
Like for example, I was asking advice to a guy I know, and he's like, "Look, I don't know your financial stuff. You need to be transparent." So I was like fully transparent. I gave him complete things,
taxes, yeah.
for him to help me out because it's easier when somebody knows your where you are basically.
All the details.
But yeah.
I wish this becomes a topic of conversation in schools to begin with.
Yeah.
Like high school.
How are we not learning this in Sec 5 before we go out into the world? We should be learning about school loans. We should be learning about the credit cards.
School loans,
School loans.
Yeah, basic stuff like
Credit cards.
Credit cards.
You used to think.
Oh my God.
You used to think you didn't have to pay back the credit card.
really. I wish.
When
It was a gift. It was a gift from the bank.
Mom first got you a credit card, and you had like a $200 limit a month. You were just like, I could spend $200 a month. I'm like, yeah, you need to pay it back at the end of the month. And you're like, huh? So that means I have the bank is giving me $200,
But I have to give it back.
you didn't understand the concept. So you know what I mean? Like all of these things, you could get a credit card when you're 18 years old. Mm-hmm. At 18 years old, you're already out of high school. Sec 5, give the course. Like this is important stuff. It could change
Someone's life.
It could change the path someone takes. And it could be it could make a huge difference on someone's life. It's just, I'm so angry about it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it would have put me in a different path. I'm not in a bad, I feel like people are going to think but I'm not in a bad place. But when I look
the potential, what could have been.
what could have been.
Of course.
It is still great, but it could have been so much better. And it's gone. Ciao, bye.
That's why time value of money is so important to me. Like, we're girls. Like, I still love
Things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if I want a Chanel bag, but like that $4,000, especially
Are they
today.
4,000 or more now?
I don't even know, but whatever.
That's more than a month's work.
Yeah, or like
they're at now.
just I would rather put that in the stock market because that's gonna make that
Yeah.
$4,000 $10,000, and in 20 years maybe $100,000.
Yeah.
So it goes back to what I was saying before, and I might be repeating myself, but this is it. You have to sacrifice something here today in our 20s, in our 30s, to just live comfortably and good, to set up our kids for their future so that maybe they don't need to be having these conversations because, they're already there. You got to give something up. And if you're giving up that Chanel bag, like if you do the math on the $4,000 invested,
Yeah.
compounded for 20 years,
That's why I haven't bought anything.
you know what I mean? So you got to give something up.
Yeah.
Give it up
a
now
side
or
I
note-
give it
up
up
later.
easily. I've never been too into
A
that.
side note, I went to New York City last summer, and I feel like that's my place. I don't know. I just
Uh-oh.
thought of it because everywhere I went, and I feel like I texted you, I'm like, Mom, like everyone's talking about finances.
Yeah.
Everywhere you went, I heard people, and I was eavesdropping. I heard people talk about businesses, finances, the stock market, and I'm like, oh my God.
Wall Street.
I need this.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's not only just about the stock market. Yes, I'm super passionate about it, but I want to know your thoughts. Like maybe we can start a business together, you
Yeah.
know?
But
Because-
it's only with having the conversations and by being exposed to the conversations, or by even putting yourself in the conversations where opportunities like that will come up.
Yeah.
So it's nice to say I want to be involved in a business and then not do anything about it. Everything comes back to drive. You want it bad enough, you go get it.
Exactly.
And this is to like kind of wrap up a little bit. It's
Basically
basically
did
been
that.
the motto of your life.
Yeah.
You want something, you go get it.
And you did
You
it.
had you, yourself, and you. Me, myself, and I. Me, myself, and I.
And to me, I see you as super successful because you did what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And at
Check.
a very young age.
On to the next.
Cheers. Thank you. Like, subscribe, leave your thoughts below down in the comment section.
Below down.
Down below. I'm tipsy a little bit.
Let us know about your financial journey. What did you do? What didn't you do? And maybe what you should be doing? Cheers.
Cheers.